Hi there, it's Kareem Habibi from Keeper's Nursery. Today's the 19th of May 2024. I'm making a short video about my apple breeding. So I did lots of actual crosses this year, so that would have happened about a month ago. I've noted everything down. I think the first few ones I did were about the 14th of April. The last few were sort of towards the end of April. So now a few weeks have passed, and I have since taken the plastic sort of mesh bags off the flowers. The petals have fallen. And then I've labeled and tagged every branch that I have uh, pollinated on. So everything's obviously backed up in paper, but also I've put sort of blue markers on all the trees so that if I do pass a branch with an apple and it's got a blue marker on it and a white label, hopefully won't just pick that apple and eat it and then throw it on the floor. I'm going to try and save those seeds, because those seeds are what we want to sort of um, germinate and plant to produce new varieties, which will have come from a particular cross that I've chosen. There's quite a few. I think there's at least 50 different crosses I attempted. I've been walking around today. Not everything has actually taken. So a few weeks ago, I'll show you examples, but basically the flowers, you can imagine how many flowers there are on a apple tree in April. There are going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of flowers on each tree. That doesn't mean each tree is going to then produce hundreds, if not thousands, of apples, because that's going to be mad. The tree itself produces too many flowers. Basically, the reason for that is the flowers, although they are expensive to produce, the tree really wants to reproduce. The idea is that, you know, if you reach maturity, you can reproduce and hopefully pass on your genes to the next generation. You know, everything's programmed to do that. People, um, pretty much every organism that isn't asexual does, you know, produce a lot of, let's say, sperm or eggs. So the flowers are going mad. Uh, let's not get a gross image in our heads. The flowers are going mad. They then, obviously, they can't control, because they're not actively pollinating themselves. They've just got to produce too many flowers, hope loads of bees show up, and the weather's good. If everything falls in place, obviously loads and loads of flowers are pollinated, and all the farmers who are producing apples are chuffed a bit, because there's loads of fruit set. That's what we call basically when all the fruits in clusters are actually still there at this time of the year. I can show you an example of that. So on this tree, you can see the clusters usually have about 5. So that one's come off. So that one's been aborted for whatever reason. But you know, these 4 are firmly on. There's lots of fruit set on this tree. So maybe this tree, which was a Braeburn, for whatever reason it flowered at a particular time where the tree, where the weather was good and there were lots of bees around. There were more bees around at the end of April, but the weather was actually better in mid-April. So, you know, some trees obviously didn't quite luck out. So if you see sort of this tree, down here, there's lots of shriveled up flowers. So these shriveled up flowers are obviously not going to turn into fruit. And sort of the king fruit on this one has, the king fruit's the central one of the sort of whirl. That one has set, but lots of them didn't. So maybe this tree basically came into flower at a time. You see all of those failed, and they all come off at this stage. So maybe this tree flowered at a sort of bad time. There's nothing obviously wrong with the flowers. It's very unlikely that was an issue with cross-pollination. So pollen from the same tree can't usually pollinate itself. Trees are sort of set up in a way to sort of stop that happening. So they want to outbreed, they don't want to inbreed. Some trees are self-fertile, but most are self-sterile, which is a good thing, so that you basically get more variation, more genetic variation. So as you can see, still some trees will have too many fruits on, and what we'll have is the June drop next month, where basically not all of these will grow, will stay on the tree. Lots of them will, But if a tree has got too many fruits, they will drop off. If you're an actual sort of fruit farmer and you want high quality, good looking fruit, you'll actually reduce the number of fruits on a tree. For example, that tree there, which has got loads and loads and loads of apples on, it's a Bismarck tree. That's got too many fruits on. They're not going to taste as good if you have lots of fruit. So you can actually come round at this stage and sort of clip them off when they're sort of small, well, big marbles, like cherry sized. It's quite easy to come along and basically sort of clip with some sharp secateurs, the sort of thin ones, the vine snips. You just cut off the branch here, sorry, the stalk, not the branch. You cut the branch off, you'll do very little damage to the tree. You don't have to cut it right back, because basically this one's going to come off here, this yellow one. Very good camera work here. This yellow one's going to come off here, and basically when the tree realizes that a fruit, it doesn't want it, there's a sort of zone of senescence down here where it just sort of snaps off perfectly. So if you do cut them off, although you initially have little stalks sticking out, those will then snap off perfectly there, and those will heal over quite nicely. So back to what I'm doing with the breeding. Obviously breeding is quite tricky because you've got a little jar of pollen and you've got to come around, you've got to pollinate, you've got to take the bag off the tree, off the branch where the flowers are, you've got to get in there, you've got to pollinate them. It's quite fiddly. Not every flower is ripe at the same time. You're probably not going to revisit every tree all the time, especially if you've got jobs and kids and stuff. So I probably didn't get quite as much pollination success as I was hoping, but you always overestimate how many you're going to do. Also, some of these apples might not make it to sort of autumn, which would be really annoying for me, but you know, there you go. You try and sort of do too many. So where I did 50 different types of crosses, I reckon I pollinated, oh blimey, sort of 10, 15 on each tree. So you're looking at, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 flowers have been pollinated. If all of those then produce, I mean, you can get up to 10 pips per apple. Oh, wow. So, yeah, you're looking at 5,000 seeds, let's say. I'm not going to be able to actually germinate and look after 5,000 seedlings. So you aim high, you know, you go out, you sort of, yeah, you punch above your weight, you aim pretty high, you sort of, you interview for a good job or whatever, knowing full well that, you know, best case scenario, you get it and I just have too many seeds. Worst case scenario, it's not the end of the world. I'll end up with a tenth of those, which will be 500 seeds, which is plenty. I don't know how many I'm going to have this year. Some varieties are better than others, and that's all to do with the timing. So some apples have been where the flowers come out at a certain time and the weather's perfect. I've caught them on a good day. Today, where it's super warm, this is a great pollination day and there are loads of bees around. There are still some trees still in flower as well. These are sort of the late season ones. So this one is Orkney, probably from the Orkney Isles, and you can see there was a little bee there right now. Some of these haven't opened, some don't even show signs of being having broken dormancy, but they're absolutely fine. These are the really late season unusual varieties. But yeah, in this weather where it's 20 degrees plus and it's long, warm, dry days, you'd get pretty good pollination at this time of the year, as long as there's more pollen around. So that Orkney needs pollen from a different tree, but luckily because the collection's so big here, we've got sort of at least 700 different known cultivars in this section. There's going to be pollen around. The bees will be able to hopefully work their magic. So back to mine. So I've taken it back to my pollination stuff. So I've put basically blue tags. So you want to ideally tag the branch that you've done, because I haven't pollinated the whole of this tree. This is a Kent tree. So Kent's quite a lovely large late season apple. Lots of fruit set where I wasn't pollinating. And then here on this branch where I was pollinating, you can see there's one apple there. So I probably tried to pollinate, you know, quite a lot. There's loads around here that failed. You know, I'm learning. I'm not too upset about that. But one apple, that would be up to 10 seeds. That's pretty good. Again, I don't know if because I did sort of 50 different crosses, I wasn't sort of, I didn't have my heart set on any of these crosses as being the one. It's just at this time, it's sort of research. It's like, well, here's 50 potential crosses. If I find in, ooh, blimey, in sort of the next 7 years, 8 years, that, let's say this one. So this is Santana and Riker. So I've got several apples here that are growing now, fruitlets. If these are, if that's a good cross, then, you know, in a few years' time, once I know that, I will go back and do, you know, 10 times as many. And I probably won't do 50 types of crosses. I'll narrow it down to sort of 5 different crosses, but I'll do 10 times. I'll pretty much do the whole tree and, you know, have way more success. So right now it's just sort of, instead of just doing openly pollinated stuff and just really chancing it, I'm chancing it a bit, but, you know, I'm trying to do things that I perhaps think will, you know, be fruitful, as it were. Here's another one. So this is Adam's pearmain. There's a few on there that I've taken under this. Yeah, so there's a few of mine that have taken there. There's more flowers on this tree. So this is lemon pippin. So lemon pippin is still in flower. You can see petals on the ground. Oh, Melba. So I think these were earlier ones that I did. I think it's the late ones that I tried to pollinate in the later ones that I pollinated in sort of late May when the weather was a bit iffy. Late April, beg your pardon. It was a bit iffier. It was only sort of 13 degrees. You want to aim for over 15 degrees, you know, sort of 16, 17 is ideal weather for hand pollination. So I I blame that, but still things are looking good. So here's another tree. This is Dabinet, the cider variety that's in flower right now. So there are plenty of trees in flower for the exceptionally late season flowering varieties. This one here, this is a very nice variety. This is St Edmund's Pippin. This is a really nice sweet summer variety. So that's a St Edmund's Pippin crossed with Riker. What's up here? This I think is Ashmead, probably. You can see it's a lot bigger, this tree. Yeah, it's Ashmead's kernel. Again, where the blue tag is, so it's just this branch here. I'll go underneath so you can see. So everything on this branch here, so there's the label which says what I did, and then so all these apples here, all these fruitlets here, so some of these aren't, you know, that's not taken, but these are, so I'll leave those alone. But then everything else on the tree, and you can see how different some fruitlets look. So some of them have got long stalks. That variety is Jester. So yeah, Jester's quite a sort of, well, it's a very pretty conical apple. So that's got a nice long stalk on it. Some of them have got very short, sort of dumpy things. If you imagine like a Bramley, it's not got a stalk on it, has it? But it doesn't really care. Let's try and find one that's completely failed. So this is Egremont Russet Freiberg. Oh no, that one's worked as well. There's a few on there. I have had some that have failed, and yeah, a bit disheartening, but what can you do? Here's another one I did. So that's Suntan Riker. Okay, so Suntan Riker, you can see all of these. None of those look like they've taken. So these will just come off. Yeah, none of those are taken actually. There you go, there's one that's pretty much all failed. Yeah, no success on that one. That was a late season one that I did. No good, never mind. What's that? Cox's Orange Flanders. Yeah, we've got a few on that one. So anyway, it's a lovely Sunday. Got to go to a christening soon, so I'm just doing a bit more work. Yeah, hopefully that video is useful, and you guys out there have had some success also with your sort of fruit set after breeding. I'd like to hear if anyone's having any sort of success, and any tips as well, because I am fairly new at this. I'd sort of, I do know my stuff, but if people discover new ways of doing these sorts of things, I will actually chase up Amanda at East Malling Research soon to find out how she's got on. I'm sure she's done thousands of these and has better success, but that's actually her job. Yeah, cool. Thanks very much for watching, and hope everyone has a sort of as nice weather as this right now. Bye.